on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and I got to thinking about the ubiquitous presence of apples on this holiday. And so we had a little fun looking at the way apples are portrayed or not portrayed. They're actually not the fruit in the Garden of Eden, all the way from the very beginning right up to the present day. And last year, not to be outdone, with a hive of bees proliferating beautifully in the compost pile, they have since been gathered and sent to a beekeeper a number of miles away. We looked for a long few minutes at the presence of honey in scripture and in our traditions on Rosh Hashanah. So to carry on with that theme, and especially because so much else is not quite as we'd envisioned, the next customary food to take center stage for our Erev Rosh Hashanah with Ner Tamid, and this service is always the appetizer, the fun-sized service, if you will, for the high holidays. So this year, for the next few minutes, we are going to think about fish heads. Now, I myself have never actually had or even seen a fish head on a Rosh Hashanah table, and that tradition continues this year. But suddenly, this year, it just seems to hit the spot. For the people who put the head of a fish on their Rosh Hashanah table, it is widely accepted to be a practice that stems from Deuteronomy, a verse in chapter 28, verse number 13, that sounds like this in Hebrew: Untancha Adonai lerosh velo lezanav, vehayita rak lemala, velo tihiyeh lemata, ki tishma el mitzvot Adonai Elohecha, asher anochi metzavecha hayom, lishmor vela'asot. If you obey and follow these beautiful commandments of the Eternal that I give you this day, the Holy Blessed One will make you the head, not the tail. You shall be at the top and not at the bottom. It's part of a rather Polonius-like speech where we're actually enjoined to really neither a borrower nor a lender be. I wonder where Shakespeare got that idea. And it's metaphoric, perhaps. But at this Rosh Hashanah, this head of the year, the language is spot on. There's a sense in this verse that we are to be the head, not the tail, the dog that does the wagging, not the other way around. What does it mean to be at the head? It means making brave decisions, taking responsibility, meeting what comes, charting and then staying the good course. In Judaism, it means always doing so under the rubric of the values of justice, mercy, compassion, and humility. It means, as Rabbi Aaron Moss of Sydney, Australia says, acting and living with seichel, with a desire to learn and to be enlightened, not governed by our lower, baser instincts. To be one who is a head is to live an elevated life, one of purpose and principle. And why a fish? Well, there are lots of suggestions for that. We're an old people and we've had time to think. Fish are actually quite common in Jewish art. They're often used as a symbol of protection because the water that covers them is compared to the divine presence that surrounds us, even if we, like the fish, are not totally aware of the waters in which we swim. Fish's eyes do not close, so they are thought and treasured as a symbol of vigilance and awareness. We are also to be vigilant and aware, not just to the dangers that beset us, but aware of the goodness and potential of the world and always on the lookout for opportunities to make the world a better place. And of course, fish lay many eggs, and so they are a symbol of abundance and fertility. Not just fertility as in being fruitful and multiplying, although we're a little people and we need help, but of a fertile imagination, a fertile mind. They're a symbol of creativity, even as they do exactly as God bids them to do. This is my own take on why a fish. Fish have a unique place in Jewish life. Overall, we like them very much, and they play a role in many a holiday and Shabbat celebration. They've been generally abundant and fairly reasonable. But much more than that, fish have a unique place in our food hierarchy. Fish are neither meat nor milk. They are what we call parav. They don't really play well with others, and yet they play beautifully with everybody. And in many homes that observe a strict kashrut, fish have their own plate. I wonder if some of us might relate to that a little bit. We fit in as best we can, and yet we're always kind of on our own plate. And that has to be okay. And why, particularly salmon, makes such an appearance in Jewish life, and I'm not exactly sure which kind of fish is appropriate to put on your table. Probably not a salmon head. I think they're a little big. But it got me thinking about salmon and how prevalent so many different kinds of salmon are in Jewish life. And wow, did it suddenly occur to me how much the Jewish people are rather like salmon, swimming mightily upstream, trying like anything to avoid being caught by a bear or snagged in a net as we attempt to leap up and over the barriers that are in our way. We are always in some way trying to find our way home, and we are utterly consumed with concern over making a place for the next generation. There are options if you don't wish to have a fish head on your table. A lot of people nowadays use a little head of garlic or a head of cabbage. And in the Sephardic community, where many people actually choose actively to not have a fish on the table, because the word for fish in Hebrew is dag. I know it's a little confusing, but the word for fish in Hebrew is dag, and it sounds very much like the word de'aga, which means worry. So a lot of Sephardic families eschew the more Ashkenazi fish head and instead opt for the head of a lamb or a sheep on their table. I've even heard of somebody very creative taking little fish that look like, that are candy actually, and cutting the heads off, placing them in a little bowl. Maybe we could meet ourselves somewhere in the middle. I have a bag of crunchy goldfish in the other room. Maybe I'll take it out and leave it on the table during this high holiday season. So there are options, and there are ways that we can meet this new year as the head and not the tail. However we choose to mark this occasion, may the head of this new year, this Rosh of the Shana, bring us an abundance of blessings. May we be fertile in laying the groundwork for beautiful things to grow and to flourish. May our leaders, whoever they may be, have courage, vision, vigilance, awareness, and compassion. May we, like those little fishies, be inspired to keep swimming upstream if that's what it takes, looking forward. And as everybody's favorite fish, Little Dory in Finding Nemo once said, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. In good health and peace. Shana Tova.